Okay, this is a video to show the removal of a broken toilet flange. I'm installing a new tile floor in this bathroom, and I needed to replace this toilet flange. Number one, the toilet flange is rusted. And number two, I need to raise it up because the floor is going to have an extra 1/4 inch of underlayment and a 1/4 inch of the tile. The old floor was the linoleum. I want the flange to sit on top of the floor like it's supposed to. And if I was simply to put the split repair flange under this, which I have done in other bathrooms in the house where the flange rusted, but I otherwise was not changing the floor. But if I did that here, I'm in a scenario where I would have to add some sort of an extender on this, so I didn't want to do that. This seems like the right way after doing a little bit of research. Okay, now there's a lot of places on the internet that do show the removal of this toilet flange. Once that ring is out of the way, it would be nice if there was an easier way to remove this flange, but basically you have to destroy it and chip it out. The way that I did it was with a drill. I drilled holes, used a hacksaw blade, either with or without this handle, and sawed around until I got this top off. And this might not be the quickest way, but it used relatively simple tools and did not take too long. Once you do that, you then have, in this case, this flange was glued to the inside of this pipe. This is actually not a pipe, it's a fitting. It's an elbow fitting, 3-inch elbow. But anyway, it was glued onto the inside of it. Now to get it off, it seems as though the recommended way, according to the internet, is to saw down through the old flange and then using a chisel to chip it off. A chisel and a hammer. Oh yes, okay, so I used this 1/2-inch chisel and I would drive it down in between the places and then just basically chip out these pieces. In some areas the glue is held pretty strong and the pieces do not want to come out. In some areas they'll come out more easily. Okay, this was done in 1984, so this has been put in there almost 40 years. I don't see any purple primer, but they say that the primer also comes without the purple color. So this might have been glued in with primer, or maybe it wasn't, I don't know. But it was glued in. In some sections very hard. As I was trying to pry it out on this section right over here, it developed a crack, started developing the outer pipe. Of course, that's terrible, terrible. So at that point, I started making the vertical cuts quite close to each other, even though it took longer, just so that as I was chipping them out, I was less likely to do damage to this. In the extreme case, you can imagine using the vertical saw all the way around very small pieces and having this thing come out like that. But the other tool that apparently is used is like a hole saw, which fits exactly over the piece you're trying to remove, and you actually saw it out. I don't have one of those. This would require a 3.5-inch hole saw, and you need something to center it. So it's a bit of a problem. You need a special tool to center it. Now you can see I did score the inside of this in many places, either by chipping it with the chisel or with the saw. And because it was glued in, that area is where it was solvent welded. So that it's hard to say exactly if that score line is in the outer wall or in the portion where the glue is. I don't know. Hopefully it won't matter, because hopefully the new glue and primer will all fill in that area. It looks to me like it's okay. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I did do a test fit on a replacement piece, and it appears snug. I need to put it in down to within about a half an inch of this, what I'm calling the subfloor now. And I can push it in about that far. And I sanded it smooth so that I could basically put it in about that far, although very, very snug with difficulty. I want it to be with some difficulty, but I don't want it to have a problem when I'm gluing it where I can't get it to go all the way in. That would be more of a problem. When I get it to where I'm going to be gluing it, and I have the finished floor in place, and I get it in there, I can pound on this either by stepping on it or possibly with a rubber mallet to drive it in the last section. But I really wanted to be able to do it by hand, snug, to know that it's going to go in all the way. When you have all of the glue in there, it will start pushing back because you have to squeeze all that glue out, and they say that you have to apply pressure because it'll want to push itself back out as the glue is setting up. You have to hold it down for about 30 seconds. So my plan was to get it so I could get it snug, very tight, into the depth that I need it, knowing that that it's possible to get it to that depth. And that in getting it out, I will have the advantage of being able to have about a half an inch where I can basically get leverage and pull it out evenly without snapping anything. Anyway, that's my idea on this. Now, I'll go into a little bit more detail when I do the installation on this later. But for here, I just wanted to get on this part of removing the old one. I think this is okay. It's not the best, but I think this was glued in pretty well. I wish there was a way for this to come out more easily, but these things are not built in a way that they can be disassembled, unfortunately. So much for that. Thanks.